Fire Radio.
Welcome back to the podcast. Jeremy with National Fire Radio. Today, an honorable and esteemed guest, Chief RIck Laskly. Chief, thanks for joining me, brother.
Oh, man. Thank you for that. I'm like, I don't know if I can live up to that, but
I think you can. I think you can. You are, as we were talking in the pregame, Pride and Ownership, it's a timeless classic. You are a timeless classic, my man.
Oh.
I mean that in with the most endearing way possible. You are one of those names in the fire service that Jeremy Donch, myself, has grown up with. And I think that that's important. And for me today, it's kind of a pinchable moment for me to sit here and talk with guys that I used to read, I still do, but read articles and learned about them and so on. And so for me today, this is going to be fun.
Well, it's going to be fun for me. You do a great job. I've been following you for a while.
Thank you.
Great topics. What I love about your show is and the guests you have is there's no BS. You know, the people you have on the show and what you do is all about loving what we do in the fire service, and that's what I love. Passion drives success.
Yes. People
that don't love what they do suck at what they do. I won't even give them very good. If you don't love what you do, you suck at it. And like I said, not even very good. It's like that the AT&T commercial where the guy's in a hospital bed. If you remember this one, Jeremy, guy's in a hospital bed. His wife, kids are standing next to him. The nurse taking his blood pressure, and the nurse says, "So how's Dr. Jones?" And the nurse goes, "Oh, he's okay." And the guy sits up and goes, "Just okay?" And she goes, and it's like, just okay. I can't do that. I've always been this is my 45th year in the fire service. I've always been way too competitive. But I want to go back to it was very nice, your intro, and I appreciate that. But you know my best buddy in the whole world, Chief John Sulka. John and I have been best buddies since the early 90s. He's my brother who passed away when we were young. He had gotten sick when he was 8 and I was 12. He lives within John Sulka. My little brother came back to me through my best buddy. But one of the things we pride ourselves on, Jeremy, is, and we say this all the time, we're just a couple of Yutz firefighters, man. You've met them. There's some prima donnas out there. There's some, especially fire chiefs that read their own newspaper clippings and think it's all about them and forget that, they walk around thinking their department's great because of them, and it's not. It's because of their people. And John and I, we make fun of each other. We make fun of ourselves. One of my favorite sayings is "egos eat brains." I'm honored, that you said that. But God, I love the fire service. I love it so. I'm where I'm at now. And but real quick, you mentioned pride and ownership, and before we went live, is they asked me a while ago. They said, well, "So are we going to do a pride and ownership too?" Second, I said, "No." It was written timeless. Aside from Chief Al Brunacini, maybe retired or now he's passed on, it was written. It was ageless, so I've got a book I'm working on for Diane and David right now called, it's kind of a follow-up. I don't want to throw the title out there yet, but it's a follow-up to Pride and Ownership. It's everything I cover in Pride and Ownership now that wasn't in the first version, if you will. And, people keep asking about it. I've got 360 something programs we do total, but it was written that way. Academies still issue it to their probies in the academy, and I'm honored they do. People always ask me, what's the best part about the book? I said, well, the best part is it's about all the stuff we love talking about in the fire service, and at the same time, it's all the stuff we hate about the fire service. The people that, you know what I'm saying, Jeremy, the people that treat this like it's just a job, that they think certain patients, I'm an EMS geek, I love it. They think certain patients are a nuisance instead of a blessing. The people that are just in it for the T-shirt or the paycheck. And if you don't love being a firefighter, there's lots of taco stands that are hiring out there. You can go do that, but you don't have to do what we're doing.
Press you on that for a second.
Go ahead.
That was one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, right? So pride and ownership, right? Let me just do this. Pride and ownership, a firefighter's love of the job. Could not be a better title. You own that pride and ownership thing outright. The book was written in 2006. It is a timeless classic, but the job continually shifts and changes. And when I say job, I don't know how much you know about the platform, and I appreciate the kind words before about what I'm doing, but the job to me is firefighting. I don't care, career, volunteer, on call, whatever it is, it's just the job, and the fire doesn't care, right? So the job continues to change, and it shifts. And you've been doing this longer than I have. Early 80s, you said when you got on in the southwest side of Chicago, right? Like, a Chicago suburb. So you've been doing this longer than I have. And what I find though today is I feel like it's shifting faster than it ever has before. And what you were saying about falling in love with it, and it has to be a part of you, a lifestyle, if you will. You have to be all in on this. I'm starting to get a lot of pushback on that type of talk. And I'm starting to get a lot of people that I feel are looking at this more of a burden and just a job and just punching a ticket and not falling in love with the process. And it might be because we haven't given them the ability to fall in love with it like you and I fell in love with it. That's what I'm curious about, is where are we today and where does pride and ownership come in today? Because I'm worried that the guys and girls today don't have the buy-in that you and I have.
Well, part of that, it's, I'll say this. Our, Look, I love the fire service. I love it
Sure.
more than life itself. My family comes first, but God, I love the fire service. But our system is broke in a couple different ways. One is, and we could talk about this later, the recruitment and retention issue among volunteers. Our system is broke. I had an article come out this month in fire engineering called The Human Factor that, it's all about volunteerism and the volunteer firefighters. And there's a lot of fire chiefs now that I think they've forgotten what it takes and what it means to be a volunteer firefighter. And God bless them. I've been a career and a volunteer firefighter the majority of my career. There's a lot of career guys that dabble as volunteers. Now, let me back up. There's a lot of career guys that do a great job as volunteers. My buddy John Salk has been a volley for 50 years. He loves it, the whole time he's on the FDNY and so on and so forth. But there's some out there that, it's kind of like a hobby. They work their career job as a firefighter and they dabble in it. And they're trying to apply techniques, strategies, and issues to volunteers that they do to career people. And that's not fair. It's not fair to be sitting in your recliner doing all your stuff for your volley joint at your career place, forgetting that you have volunteers that are working two jobs trying to put food on a table, money into a college fund. They're trying to make fundraisers, media nights, drill nights, calls, and everything else, all along making their kids recital and soccer games and everything else. I'm not making excuses. I'm saying that's reality.
It's reality.
And so our system is broken that end. It's also broken on the other end too, where I think the more senior members in the fire service need to get back into motivating, Jeremy, to young firefighters. I was blessed early in my career as a kid. I grew up in my old man's firehouse, Captain Kurzrock, Captain, God, I can remember these guys like it was yesterday. They allowed me to fall in love with the job. And, I think we've come a long way. We've gotten rid of a lot of the bullies and thugs in the fire service. There's still some, but the day of, harassing a young firefighter, hey, boot, hey, this, hey, that, sit down, kid, shut up, all this stuff, you should, 2 ears, one mouth, you should be listening, twice as much as you talk. But at the same time, there's a lot of fire chiefs. If you know me, I call them Ringknockers. I had a colonel in the Air Force at a class. These two guys came up and they're going on about themselves, and they walked away and she rolled her eyes and I said she was a colonel. And I said, "What's that?" She goes, "Oh, a couple of Ringknockers, from the academy." And unfortunately, look, there's a lot of great fire chiefs. I have tremendous friends that are great fire chiefs, but there's a lot of them that I think have forgot what it means to be a firefighter, not the fire chief, a firefighter. They're sterilizing their firehouses. Now you look in here, you can look behind me. I moved out of my office for this. There's pictures on all four walls of jobs, training, people, everything. They allow people here at Estes Valley Fire in Colorado to love the job. They love the firefighter. They allow the firefighters here to fall in love with the place. And I've said this for decades, Jeremy, because, I did my first Pride and Ownership keynote February 2001 at FDIC. And, I tell people all the time, little boys and girls want to be you. If Toys R Us is back in service, you go to Toys R Us, there's a whole aisle full of toys dedicated to the firefighter. And no disrespect out there to some hardworking people, but there's not a whole aisle full of UPS and FedEx trucks.
That's right.
I'm not going, "Hey, Jeremy, you be UPS, I'll be FedEx, let's go deliver packages." little boys and girls want to be firefighters.
Yes.
And if you can't fall in love with this profession, this calling as a volunteer or career, you said it very nicely before. Fire doesn't care. Fire will kill your ass dead. I've been wanting to do this stuff for a long time. John Salk and I, when we started the whole RIT Mayday thing and all that stuff a long time ago, never thought it would get to where it's at today. Fire doesn't care. It will kill your ass dead either way. One gets paid, one doesn't. We can go down that path too. But if you don't love this, then you need to go somewhere else. And I'm very pointed about that. I had a guy at a class, and he was just so angry that he had to be there, Jeremy. And I'm like, why are you here? He goes, well, I was told to be here. I said, no, why are you in the fire service? And I said, there are people lined up that would love to do this job. If you're this miserable and angry, then go work for Taco Bell. God bless him. But you know what? You don't have. You go home at 5 o'clock and not care about this job. You can't do that. If you're not into the job, if you don't love the job, you suck at it. And I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not going to apologize for that, because that's what I mean. So I think we have to get back to the senior firefighters, which is a very much forgotten, incredible person. That guy or gal, that he or she in that firehouse, that's the mentor, the coach, grabbing young Jeremy and young Rick and going, come here, Ricky, come here, Jeremy. No, stop doing that. Stay, we need more of those people to step up. We need more of our leadership to reconnect themselves and start motivating the firefighters. Now, they want to blame generations. And I did a podcast once called Generation Blame. Yes, there are different generations, but I've had it up to here with people who blame, and just give me a second to roll through this. Like, I talked about it in class, Jeremy. I'll go, so how many young guys have been called the kids? And yeah, the kids, we got these kids. You hear these old guys going, we got these kids nowadays. We got these, these kids nowadays. They, the Xboxers, the Generation Xbox and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And, this, and the kids call the old guys dinosaurs. And I always point this out about the dinosaurs. Right now, all over the world, right at this very second while we're doing this show, the smartest people in the world, our scientists, are still studying dinosaurs to learn from them. There's a message for you. When you see the old guy or gal sitting in your firehouse, the smartest people are still studying dinosaurs. You should be paying attention. Yes. On the other hand, I've met some incredible young men and women. And my thing is, instead of bullying them, instead of categorizing, instead of pigeonholing them, yes, you have to understand that each generation, I can talk more direct with some people than I can with other people without hurting feelings and things and so on and so forth. Yeah, absolutely. You have to know who you're dealing with. That's what they teach in Instructor 1 is Edward Thorndike's Laws of Learning, How Adults Are Different from Children, and Maslow's Motivational Pyramid, and how we live our lives. You have to understand that yes, people are different. There are different generations. But this is the fire service. You either want to be a firefighter or you don't. And one last thing here is I was at Camp Pendleton. I was doing a class for the Marines, and my buddy John Salk makes me tell this in class all the time. And I'm sitting with the gunny who's setting up the training for the week. And there's another gunny out in the lobby. And this young sailor comes in. You always spot the new sailors with how their uniform is. And he's delivering invitations to Command Master Chief who's retiring. And he walks in, and I know a lot of our veterans, a lot of our military folks. You don't ever call a gunnery sergeant. So I look up just in time, Jeremy, see this kid go, excuse me, Sergeant, and I witnessed this gunny jump over his desk and get in this kid's face and go, do you not know I'm a gunnery sergeant? And he's screaming, he's spitting all over him. I saw the kid later, Jeremy. I go, what was he yelling at you about? He goes, I don't know, I think I blacked out like 3 times. So this is going on for a while, bud. And so the gunny is sitting across me, kind of like you said, just sitting like that with his hands. And I go, how do you deal with them? He goes, what? I go, with the millennials. He goes, the who? I go, with all these generation things. He goes, we don't deal with generations here. We'll deal with Marines. You either want to be part of something special, you don't. And I thought, you know what? This is the fire service. If you don't love it, if you don't love what we do, I'll be honest with you, I've got no use for you. I'm not talking about going through a bad time in your life. You got problems at home or whatever, that kind of stuff. I'm talking about those that take joy in making the rest of us, you and I, you wouldn't be doing this show like you do with all the guests and the difference, you're making in the lives of people all over if you didn't love the fire service. I watch you, I see your passion. That's where I'm going with that is, we need to invigorate. We need to, infuse. We need to lead. Our buddy Eddie Buchanan, lead with passion. And try to drag more people onto our side the Jeremy and Rick side to get them, get more people to love this job. So there's my monologue. So there you go.
Well, it's good, but man, there's a lot to unpack there, right? I wanted to let you go with it, but there's so much in there, and I don't even know where to begin. I maybe I'll start here. In the program that I do called Bridging the Gap, and it's a generational conversation where we have to find commonality to be able to move forward. I go through all the generations, start with the greatest generation, the silent generation. I go all the way up to Gen Alpha, right? And then at the end, the next slide it's an old guy and a young girl on the screen in turnouts, and it says, we're just generation firefighter. And then I go into, we might have all these generational differences, but at the end of the day, we still have commonality amongst ourselves, and we have to dial in on that. And the thing is this, we want people to be all in, chief. You're a fire chief of a fire district. So you'll have a great point of view and reference on this. We expect so much from our people. You and I, Rick and Jeremy, we want everybody to be all in on the fire service, right? Our contemporaries were years ago. I think it was a little bit easier to be all in on it, right? Where I'm going with this today is how many fire departments, how many administrators and command staffs are letting our people down? We expect everything from firefighters. We want you to be all in. We need you to be all in. In fact, we want you to be so far in that you're willing to lay down your life for a complete stranger, but I can't give you this or I can't support you here. And the problem is the value proposition has really gotten skewed. We don't have strong administrations and fire chiefs and command staffs that are giving everything they can back to show that there's a need for this unconditional love of people to fall in love with the job, and they're supported by their jobs. And so I feel like the fire service has been letting people down. And I think that's why a lot of people are falling out of love with it and only making it a job. And one step further, where my biggest concern comes from, and I'd love your point of view on this, my biggest concern is if it just becomes a job, if it just becomes punching the clock, are they really going to do and act when they're called upon? That's my biggest and gravest concern when it comes to what we do. The public has an unconditional belief that we are coming and we are there for them. But if the value proposition skews and now it's more about me and not the mission, when I have to push down that hallway or if I have to go into that basement, am I going to do it? Well, that scares the hell out of me.
Well, and I'll say this. I think everybody will answer the call when the bell rings.
I hope.
How well we do it. So here's an example exactly what you're talking about. So, I certified as a paramedic in 1982. So for some of your viewers and listeners, please don't make fun of me. I know it was a long time ago. I started in 1980. Anyway, I was an explorer all through high school. So I'm one of them geeks that couldn't get enough of it. And yes, I love EMS. Okay. So a while back, I had the honor of serving for where I'm at right now, SS Valley Fire, right here in the middle of the Rocky Mountains. Been here since 1907 as fire department. I am just blessed. I've got the all-star team for a staff. I've got incredible firefighters. I worked prior to coming here with a volunteer fire department in Texas, Wichita West. Great leadership. Brian Fetch is the chief, and some great people. I miss them dearly. They're yesterday they had 6 fires. They've been running wildland stuff and blah blah blah. Great place. But I remember a couple years ago, and the chief, he knows where I'm going with this. We're coming back from a lift assist, right? Nobody wants to go on lift assist, and you usually have 3 of them, right? And then one will pass away or go to a nursing home, and another one picks it up. So about 2:30, I'm actually driving the engine back, and I had a young firefighter behind me go, he goes, "God, I hate EMS." And I said, "So you hate taking care of people?" And this goes right with what you were saying about answering the call. He goes, "No, I said I hate EMS." I said, "No, you hate taking care of people." I said, "Look, it wasn't on the top of my list to get up at 2:30 in the morning and go help this guy who fell off the toilet back up in his chair so he could get back to bed." I said, "But let me explain something. My dad died a year ago on Father's Day. My dad was a gunnery sergeant in the Marines in Korea, a firefighter, a tough old Polak." I said, "He got bladder cancer and he did home hospice at my cousin's house in Grand Chute, Wisconsin, which is next to Appleton, right?" And I played ball there with the Sox. So anyway, that being said, the last month and a half of his life, Jeremy, he fell out of bed. He got up after everybody went to sleep. You know how this works. Stubborn. He got up and tried to make it a bathroom. He fell 5 times. So the Grand Chute Fire Department, they will always, if you're from Grand Chute, you will always have a special place in my heart. 5 times in the middle of the night, two paramedics, firefighter paramedics, they get an ambulance and three on the engine, drive to my cousin's house, pick my dad up 5 times off the floor while he moaned and groaned the 5th time after they cleaned poop off my dad. And this young female firefighter paramedic the last time is lifting my dad up, and she looks on the end table and she sees my book, Pride and Ownership. And I, like I said before, I'm just a firefighter, man. I just love what I do. There's a lot of people out there that read their own newspaper clippings, like we said, but it's not me. And she says, "Is somebody here a firefighter?" My cousin says, "Well, he used to be." Points to my dad. She goes, "But his son wrote that book." And she goes, "This is Chief Lasky's dad." Now, again, I'm nobody special, but my dad's in my book. My dad's in my program. My dad's using a firefighter. They had no idea, Jeremy, that was my dad, that he had been a Marine and a firefighter. And they treated my dad like that was their own father. And I ask people in class all the time, raise your hand if you're okay with some firefighter coming to your mom or your grandma's house, your family, and treating them like they're a nuisance. Raise your hand if you're okay with that. And nobody has ever raised their hands. It goes, then why do we allow people to do it? It goes along with what you're saying. Why do we allow firefighters to diss the job? Why do we allow firefighters to take, because we're the only profession really that can have an 18-year-old firefighter and an 80-year-old firefighter that are firefighters, not lieutenants or captains. They're firefighters. And most places you promote, you graduate to different jobs in your private sector job and all this stuff. So again, it goes back to, why do we allow people to trash the job, trash talk each other? There's a lot of people out there with the tattoos and the hats, God bless them, that throw that word brotherhood around, and there's a her in my brotherhood, there's a her in my brotherhood. They couldn't find the word brotherhood with 2 hands, a flashlight, and a seeing eye dog. You know what I'm saying? You're either part of us, a part of this special family, or you're not. And you and I and Chief David Rhodes, my good buddy, and Chief Bobby Halton, God bless him, and the Mike Dugans and the Billy Goldfetters and the John Salkas, we all feel the same way. I love hanging with the people like yourself. The people I love hanging with because they love this job so much you can't help but admire them. I'm not saying you can love it like me.
Yeah, but you know what I love about that too, Chief? And I just want to expand on that if you don't mind. I'm sorry to jump in.
Go ahead.
But what I love about that too, I love being in the same room. But what it is, it's not just the like-mindedness. It's people that share the same core values and beliefs, right, in that whole system. But it's also people that aren't rolling over and just not doing anything more. This is the group that continues to push forward, continues to try to find answers and make this job better and push it forward. I'm so tired of people not putting in time. I'm tired of groups of people that will sit there and tear down instead of diving in and building up. And that is what we need to instill more of. We need to get people to understand that we need their buy-in. We want their buy-in. This is not that 1-2% club. That's not what this is. This should be the 99% club, and that's what we need more of.
Well, and Jeremy, little thing here, little side note, and you've noticed this, a couple flares, a couple little Roman candles now. For about a decade or so, a little while back, we kind of got pushed down the wrong hallway. We rather get pushed down the hallway, with a hose line, stretching, searching on your hands and knees, getting your butt kicked. We got pushed down a hallway of stay outside, do this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I won't go down a path. But I'll tell you this. Go to the social media platforms. I brought this up at our FDIC advisory board meeting last year. We're getting ready to go again in July. You go to Instagram or TikTok or Threads, and it's hard to get on there, Jeremy, without seeing videos now. Guys are, again, the bunker pants, they have their ball caps on, they're on the nozzles. They're teaching kids, young firefighters, they're doing nozzles. They're flowing water. They're forcing doors. They're cutting holes. And we kind of went away from that, and now we're getting back into it. It's fun to see all that again. All these guys teaching programs and grabbing young guys and gals and go, come here, let me show you, because it goes back to what you said. If look, the whole, if it doesn't quack like a duck, that whole thing, if it doesn't look like a firehouse, smell like one, it tastes like one, it ain't one. So let your guys and gals train. Let them, real quick. So my buddy John Salka is in Kansas, in Wichita, and good guys there, Sammy Hiddle and all them. And he calls me and he's all excited. I go, what? He goes, you wouldn't believe this. I'm at the hotel. I hear a rig. It's a tower ladder. They pull up at this call. I walk across the street to see their rig, and one of the guys comes over. Hey, Chief Salke. He goes, what? They go, well, I've had your class before. He goes, Rick, by the time I was done talking to them, I swear to God, I was talking to firefighters in the Bronx.
Yep.
They looked like them. They dressed like them. They smelled like them. They talked like them. He goes, they had tools in their hands. They were into the job. That doesn't happen on accident. That happens because you got a lieutenant or a captain or a senior firefighter going, come here, Ricky. Come here, Jeremy. Let me show you how to fall in love with this job. If we're not showing the next generation, if we're not showing the future of the fire service how to fall in love with this job, again, go back to Eddie Buchanan's leading with passion. If we're not, if you're miserable and you're dissing a job and you're screwing over your brothers and sisters and you're talking trash about other people and all that stuff, it's like watching a kid come from a nasty childhood, and you're like, I don't know how he or she made it out of that mess. It's just, we're producing a product. That's the whole mentoring thing. John Copeland, I'll tell you this real quick, is a 35-year, he's a Marine, a firefighter in Louisville, Texas, where I was chief for 12 years. And God, I love him. And he always wants to be, Jeremy, he always wants to be the senior firefighter, the mentor for the new guys and gals, right? And I asked him years ago, I said, Cope, why is this because I love mentoring. I go, why is it such a big deal for you to mentor the young firefighters? And he said it without hesitating. He goes, Chief, because I want to have a say in the future of my fire department. And God, I love that. And we need more people, Jeremy, to step up, like some of the people you have in your show that love the job. Like I said, I watch your stuff. Just like a lot of us, you don't invite the clinkers. You don't invite the duds. You don't invite the.
It's so
right?
funny you say this. Go ahead.
I've got no use for mutts. Okay, and mutts come in all shapes and sizes and all ranks, and not just chiefs. If you don't love the job, even a little, I don't really want to be around you.
You know what I love, Chief? I get to. This is mine. So I get to do whatever I want to do. And my favorite thing is, like today, I have RIck Laskly on, which is somebody that I read his articles and his books and all these things. And I grew up with you, as a mentor, if you will, in the fire service, right? I grew up with that. But typically on my show, I mix guys in like you every once in a while. My show is about finding guys that I think have so much value from Joe Average Place, that have so much love and never had a platform or a place to tell their story or share their thoughts. And for me, no offense, Chief, I love you, and this has been fantastic today, but I love talking to Joe Average dudes. But you said it yourself today. You're average. I'm a fireman. That's all I want to be. That is who I want to capture, and those are the people that are pushing this job forward.
Well, and you do it. I love your videos from the shows, and I'm gonna pick on FDIC because that's my family. I've been with Fire Engineering Magazine since 1995. Diane just sent me an article to review. I've been on the FDIC board since they bought it. But some of your spots you do where I'm not to embarrass you, but I love watching you. You'll pick out rigs on the floor, apparatus.
Yeah.
That I'm like, holy shit! Look at this thing. The tools, the compartments. Right. You're in the cab. You're zooming in. I'm going. You're zooming in on things. I wish we'd have put that light on our pump panel on our fire engine. And I'm going. Obviously, folks, you can tell I watch Jeremy's show because I'm talking about things, and I'm like, see, that's it. The tools, guys who wrap their tools, guys who are not just putting on a show, but they live it, they love it, they show up, they're in the game. You know what I'm saying? They learn. I learned something about this job every single day. Now, I got to tell you an Alan Brunacini story. Bruno's gone. I miss him. My mentor, my godfather. I call him my godfather. So Bruno, myself, and Bobby Hall, all right, we're on our way from Tulsa to Rogers, Arkansas to do a program for them. Several-hour drive. Bruno had done 48 years at Phoenix, 26 as chief, all the umpteen years, the godfather of fire service. You see his fingerprints on everything. He's in the back seat, Jeremy, the whole way. Let me pull this out. He goes, every 10 minutes, Rick, hand me his phone. Read this article. Rick, watch this video. So finally, after about 3 hours, I looked at Bobby and go, does this guy ever take a nap? Does he ever take a break? And he goes, no, Ricky, he's into the job. And see, those are the people who I'm like a little kid. I talk to my buddy John Salka sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. And you know what? I'll call him and we'll talk shop. We don't talk about, how your tulip's doing. you know, the Rose Guard. We talk shop, we talk rigs, we talk tools, we talk stuff,
Sure.
you know. So my wife's going back in a day here for about 11 days to visit with my granddaughter and kids back in Texas. And she's like, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, one of my lieutenants, Ron, who's into the job, he's playing battalion chief today." I go, "We're going to sit in front of the firehouse in the evening and have coffee like we used to the old days. And we're going to talk shop."
Yes.
You know, the kitchen table, one of the greatest experiences of my life in the fire service, and then sitting in front of the firehouse and just, you know what, you talk family. Maybe you talk about your kids or what's going on with, softball, soccer, or whatever, your daughter's recital. Maybe you've solved some problems for some people at home, or you solved the problems in the fire service. We're missing those kitchen table talks, the drill night talks after the run. Like, we had a gas leak this morning and some of my volunteers were here. The hallway was buzzing. After they were canceled, the hallway, I had one guy with 45 years talking to someone with 2 years.
Yes.
And I almost was like, "Hey, stop with all the laughter down the hallway." They're laughing and giggling and talking. And a couple of them didn't even make the rig. They got here quick, but look, where I'm at now, you better sleep in the parking lot or you're not going to make some of these rigs. But
Right.
That's what we're missing. We're missing, like you hear people talk about, put the fun back in the funeral. Well, we've allowed some of the Ringknockers to take the passion away from the job. We've allowed in their efforts to make this a much more professional thing, which we are all professionals, don't get me wrong. We've separated what some people fell in love with, and you know what I'm saying, and it's not working. It's not working, damn it. We're spinning. It's like running up the escalator. So Jeremy, you and I were at the airport. You did this as a kid. You run up the down escalator, right?
I still do, Chief.
And then you stop to take a breath and you lose 4 steps. And then you run up. Well, that's what we're doing. We're allowing some of these people that aren't into the job to steal our love and steal our passion and steal the very things we grew up loving about being firefighters, whether you fell into it or have family. And that's what we need to get, that's what we need to start working on again. And I'm not plugging the book. That's pride and ownership, the love for the job. It's
absolutely. And I want to talk about that because I'm sure there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and I'm sure that they probably have not read your book. It is, 2006. I mean, it's, it's like a fine wine. I mean, it's been on the shelf now for 18 years.
Still the bestseller.
Absolutely. But what I love about it, and I found myself using that phrase when I talk, it's like pride and ownership. Like you hit that so spot on. There's no other way to talk about all of it. But I mean, here, core values and traditions, leadership and mentorship, dedication and passion, community and brotherhood. I mean, these are all big topics in that book. And what I have found in the fire service, as much as I believe you and I agree with you 100% that what was once a subculture is now, I believe, the culture. Where subcultures were a conference here, a conference there, as guys training in the back of the firehouse because everybody wasn't into it at the time. I think that is now coming to the forefront. We have more micro conferences. We have more people diving back in, getting away from that safety culture nonsense that swept through, that we're getting back to the bread and butter operations of firefighting. It is showing, and that subculture is now becoming the culture. I firmly believe that. But the problem is this. Everybody should be focusing on tactics and strategies, but we're focusing on leadership and culture. Leadership and culture should be taken care of. Like, we shouldn't have people searching for how to be a better leader, right? Years and years ago, Chief, you started the fire service in the early 80s. I mean, people became good leaders through experience and time. Today, we have people seeking podcasts and reading every single book they can to find, I don't want to say shortcuts, but they're trying to get to be a better leader quicker than experience would get you there. And so what I'm finding is now we're talking a lot about in the fire service leadership and culture, because both of those items are missing in so many firehouses. So we're focusing on that and not focusing on strategy and tactics. So I think the equation is skewed. I think we should be 99% strategy, tactics, 1% culture and leadership. But in fact, it's flip-flopped because we're seeking that leadership and culture so much, because I think it's missing so much.
Well, exactly. And again, you and I were lucky. I was blessed to be surrounded by incredible mentors. Chief
Sure,
Eddie Enright from
absolutely.
Chicago, Jack McCassin, Tom Freeman, Tommy Schervino, the best man at my wedding, Ray Hoff. He and his brother Bobby, real backdraft brothers. Ray was my best man. His wife Barb was my wife,
No
Jamie's
kidding.
maid of honor.
That's cool.
I miss Ray dearly. But I was fortunate to be around people that, to sit at a kitchen table in the 18th Battalion in the Bronx, or even where I was fire chief for a while. If you take your cell phone out while you're at the kitchen table, you're going to hear two things. You're going to hear the senior guy or gal go, which means put the phone away, or you're going to have somebody say, put that thing away. You want to be on that, go on the hallway. The kitchen table is where we break bread as a family. We talk, we share, we cry, we laugh, we work through all our issues. Just like I think families in America have kind of lost their grip on what it means to look. I know Blue Bloods is a show. I love Tom Selleck's leadership. I don't know who writes that script,
Right.
but my two favorite shows. I mean, I just say, Chicago Fire, because my good buddy Steve Chikarotis does everything he can. I love Chick to make sure it's good. But Tom Selleck's leadership style, but that Sunday afternoon meal with the family, it's the same thing in the fire service, Jeremy. The moment, so right here, I've got 50 plus volunteers that work at Estes Valley Fire. They have family night. This is what I love. I fell in love with the firefighters. I was a fire chief in Coeur d'Alene when I left the southwest side of Chicago in the Rocky Mountains. I was there. It's beautiful. Coeur d'Alene's gorgeous. This is breathtaking where I'm at now. Anybody that's listening, Google Estes Park, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I fell in love with the firefighters and their passion. So they do a family night. So every couple of months, there's 5 different squads. One will take it, and everybody cooks, and we pull the rigs out, and people come up here with their kids and their families, and there's it's easy to fall in love with being a firefighter at Estes Valley Fire because they allow you to fall in love with it, and they kind of set the trap doors for you to fall through. Like, all right, family night, man. Are you coming to family night? Well, not everybody makes it, but a ton of people. They set up all tables, chairs. They have it's potluck and it's all this stuff. Like I said, you come up for calls. They run me over trying to get to the rigs here. Absolutely. And I swear to God, I think we have elk everywhere here. If you Google it, there's elk right now. There's elk outside. There's baby elk. They're all over the place. They walk through your yard. I think some of them are my people out there with just like elk suits on, because if they set the tones off right now, it's unbelievable. That doesn't happen on accident. South Blooming Grove in Orange County, New York, where John Salka has been a valley forever, their department. Snyder, New York, our good buddy Tom Merrill wrote the book. So Louisville, Texas, Wichita West Fire in Texas. You and I can go Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We can go down Pearland, Texas. Our good buddy Jack Taylor, Jay Taylor, and Curtis Burt. I can jump all over the country.
Yeah.
Up into Canada. Our families in Canada. And you can find fire departments that are into the job and they love it. And now all you got to do, Jeremy, is go there for 5 minutes like you and I do. You visit I do. And you walk in and you can smell it. You can smell it. It smells like a fire. I don't mean
As soon as you walk in the door,
Yeah, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
They're into the job. They got stuff hanging on the walls. The tools are wrapped. The guys. And then you can walk into the cellophane wrapped, very nice package. It's like a Christmas present that you get underwear. Right. You get all excited, open up the box, and it's
right.
Now. Oh, I'm sorry. Underwear is important. And let me just say, it's the ugly sweater you never wanted.
Right.
There are
the big bunny outfit, right? Yeah.
You've been there. There are firehouses. You pull up. You go, oh, this is gonna be awesome. You get in there and go, this is not awesome. And then you go to this 100-year-old firehouse, and you walk in there, and the bays are crammed, and the rigs are, and the guys and gals are into the job, and you go, God, I want to be here. Let me tell you real quick. So I'm at a place teaching, and like I said, we do career volunteer, like I said, all over. But this is a particular place, a volley joint. And they catch a run in the middle of my class. So they come back, Jeremy, it was a house fire that wasn't a house fire. And I'm going to use the men's room, which is off of that brass floor. And I'm walking between the tailboard and the bumper of an engine. There's a captain with a young firefighter. And I'm going, is this an ass chewing? And I hear this captain go, he goes, what are you doing Tuesday night about 7:30? And the kid goes, nothing. He goes, you meet me up here at 7:30 Tuesday night. You and I are going to do our air packs together. So later on, next break, I catch him. I go, look, I wasn't eavesdropping, but what was that about? He goes, well, we went out to the call. His straps were all jumbled up. And he goes, and usually what people do is, hey, dumbass, fix your, this. He goes, no, I've been there. He goes, he's a little bit, he's lacking some confidence. So nobody's up here Tuesday night, so I won't embarrass him. So we're going to come up here together, and I'm going to do Donnie Doffing with him. And I swear to God, I looked, I went, I just met this guy. I want to work for him. That's the captain I want to work for. The guy that's going to go meet me up here Tuesday night. I want to work for the Eddie Enrights and the Jack McCaslins and the Tommy Trevinos and the guy, you know, those are the people, not for ego, not that for the pat, but, you know, so,
Style of leadership.
well, but how do they find, that's the question for both of
Mm.
us, you know, and I kind of lead down this path. Where do we find that? If you're a young firefighter, because you have people ask you all the time, like I do. So, Jeremy, Rick, how do, you know, look, I'm working at a place and this is that, and the guys aren't it. And I'm like,
I get it every day.
yeah, sometimes I tell people, I did an article for Fire Engineering called Firehouse Survival. We do a great job. We've been teaching RIT Mayday, John Salk and I, since we created it, okay? We do a pretty good job teaching people in RIT and Mayday stuff, but we do a horrible job teaching. We teach them how to survive in a fire ground, but not how to survive in the firehouse, where we spend 98% of our time. And I came up with the 3 Ps to survive in the firehouse. I use this on corporate classes. So if you allow me just a second here. So the 3 Ps are fairly simple. The foundation for everything you do is passion. You and I already talked about it. You're one of the most passionate dudes I know. I watch your, like I said, you know, not just with your show, just in conversations. Passion drives success. Passion is the foundation for all successful people. If you don't love what you do, you suck. On top of that, the second P is perseverance. You never give up. You never throw in the towel. You never let people beat you down, the bullies and the thugs and the miserable people, the Eeyores that don't love this job. And then the last one of the Ps, the 3 Ps of surviving the firehouse, is patience. And it's the hardest one because sometimes you have to wait 10 years for that mutt to leave or whatever. People go, well, that's okay, Chief Lasky, but how do I keep my sanity? I'm like, well, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you this. If you want to hang with miserable people, misery loves what? Pick your friends, man. And sometimes you have to go outside your department. Sometimes you have to go next door to Beeperville and find Jeremy and find John and go, hey, man, you got to hang with people. What's the phrase? Hang with people whose passion sets your soul on fire. Pick and choose your friends. Pick and choose your love for the job. I promise you it'll rub off on you. If you hang with people who love what we do as firefighters, it will rub off on you. If you listen to these shows and you read the books and you read the articles and you look for mentors and you take the young guys and gals and you show them the way, the passion will happen. I worked for America's worst fire chief at one time in my career. And my whole goal was to go out and keep the troops motivated.
Yes.
And if I saw him today, I'd shake his hand and say, thanks for being such an asshole because you turned me into a pretty good firefighter. You know, because he taught me everything not to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
I'm just... So
but that's a big part of leadership too, is learning what not to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, go. You see them in your travels. You see the people. You go. You know, how many times you've been at a firehouse for dinner? You come out. They go, Jeremy, come on by the firehouse for supper.
Sure, all the time.
And it's 6:00, and you look at your watch, and it's 11:00, and you're still sitting there talking shop at the kitchen table. And as tired as you are because you've had a full day and you go, man, I got a show to do tomorrow. I got to go visit these people. I got to do this. You're like, God, you don't want to leave the firehouse.
I don't leave. I won't.
Yeah. So they're out there and they're out there. So
I agree with you.
You know,
I think what we need to do, Chief, though, is we have to allow, you mentioned the senior man earlier, and that is a huge part of the equation, right? The senior man is probably the most important position in the fire service on and off the fire ground in a lot of different ways. The problem is today, though, this is you said, how do we do it, right? You challenged me with that too. You threw it back. How do we do this? How do we do it? We have to allow our people to work. We have to allow our people to be firefighters. We have to have command staffs and administrations allow for that layer of informal leadership, which allows for the mentorship. Get out of their way. Get out of their way. Don't hold your people back. That's happening everywhere. And what happens is it creates a sour environment. And if we want senior men, senior women, whatever, we want somebody in that informal role that has experience and time and some knowledge to share. We need to foster an environment that allows them to do such without any type of retribution or overstepping on them. Let them do their job.
And I'm not demeaning it. This is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I used to say this for years. Let them play firefighter.
That's right.
People signed up. They signed up as a volunteer to respond to calls. They became a career firefighter to go on jobs. Nobody drives. My buddy says it all the time, John. He goes, I don't drive 60 miles to the Bronx to eat steaks, watch movies, and wash my truck. I go there to go on jobs. I want to go on calls. I want to get, you know, and some of these chiefs, God bless them, there's some great fire chiefs out there. Don't get
There
me wrong.
are no doubt.
Some of them can't get out of their own way.
Yes.
Sometimes. And it goes back to, excuse me. So I did another deal called The Squeaky Hinge. Another article I got come out as a show I did. And if you know building construction, most doors have 3 hinges. Some commercial have 4, but most have 3. If one of them's squeaking, if you know building construction, it's almost always the bottom hinge. And all day long, Jeremy and Rick are sitting in office and we hear squeak, 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 squeak. And we're like, by the end of the day, we're having anxiety attacks because this damn door is squeaking. Somebody just get the WE-40. We used to somebody. And by the end of the day, you're all upset with that freaking hinge that keeps squeaking, forgetting there's 2 other hinges that have done the same exact equal amount of work and you haven't heard a peep from them. So what that means, with just under 40,000 fire departments in the United States alone, all right, or include our brothers and sisters, our family in Canada, that means there's tens of thousands of great chief officers. There's a couple that don't get it.
That's right.
The problem is we allow them to sneak in to our firehouses and do what you said. They get in their people's way. I despise micromanagers. I can't say, micromanagers.
Chief Ringknockers.
Oh, the ring. Yeah, exactly. The ring. No, look, I'm not against higher education. I'm on Columbia Southern's advisory board. I have my degree, all that stuff. But you know what I'm saying? There's, that's the egotistical maniacs that can't get out of their way to save their fire department. Let your firefighters play firefighter. If they want company logos, let them have the company logos. If they want to wrap their tools, don't bitch they're not washing the rigs, washing the floor, looking good if you don't do it yourself or if you're not allowing them to.
Just look at what you're prioritizing. I mean, I just had this conversation the other day, not about the fire service, about just corporate America, if you will. And somebody I know was let go because they're not strong in spreadsheets and data, which was a part of their job, but the main focus was customer service and sales. And the leadership valued spreadsheets and reporting over customer service and sales, which in the grand scheme of things, I've been a salesman my whole life. When you value reports over actual sales, right? The only information you're putting in reports is the sales that are generated. So when you do that and the focus shifts, you prioritize your focus elsewhere and not on the mission. I would challenge anybody that listens to this podcast. And the problem is, Chief, people that listen to these podcasts are not the ones that need to hear this. That's the whole problem of all this, right? But the managers, the bosses, the leaders, the chiefs that are sitting in their office and don't have a burning desire to get back in the front seat of that engine or to run a line on a fire ground, maybe you need to start thinking about where your passion and love for this job is today versus where it used to be.
Where the disconnect is, are you spending more time on the golf course?
That's right.
Harry Carter.
That's right.
God bless. Harry Carter did
New Jersey man.
Oh, Harry was one of my sponsors for when I became a Mason.
I never met him. I never had the opportunity to meet him.
What a smart man. But he wrote an editorial for Firehouse Magazine, Jeremy, called, he wrote 2. One was, you can't hide behind, hey, chief, you can't hide behind your desk. The other one was the fire chief's handicap.
Right.
And it was like, so they interviewed professional golfers. And I said, in order to have this handicap, that means you have to hit this many buckets of balls. You have to do so much and all this. And when you look at the time spent doing that versus the time you spend in the firehouse, again, I'll say this to your viewers, you don't have to love the job like I do. I'm not expecting to love the job like I do or like you do. I'm expecting to love it a little bit. And as a chief, the day you stop having coffee at the kitchen table because you don't want to hear the guys bitch, well, that's your job. I do a program called Great Leaders Make Difficult Decisions because anybody can make the fun stuff. But you have, if you stop making the calls, if you're out on the road and you pull over at the gas leak call just to see the troops. My wife used to say, you go into a 1-alarm response for a sparking outlet? I go, yeah, because I haven't seen C-shift in a while. Just when there's so there's something called, and I know you're familiar, there's something called your leadership lifespan as a fire chief. In most cases, it's 5 to 7 years. Now, I know some chiefs, some good friends of mine that have been the fire chief in their department for 10, 15 years, and they're doing spectacular. But the reason they're still making jobs, they're still having coffee, they're still talking, they're still open to criticism, they're being constructive, not destructive, they're still leading, they're still learning, all that stuff. they're still doing that. But if you're not, a lot of them, the first 3 or 4 years they're there, they hit it out of park, and then they just kind of live. It's like they're living off of what they did their first 3 or 4 years. And like when I interview someone for fire chief, I do a lot of recruitments for a lot of cities, a lot of departments, and I'm looking at someone going, God, they were there for 30 years as a firefighter all the way up. But what had they done in the past 5 years?
Yes.
What you did when you were a rookie, God bless you, but that was a long time ago. When you were a chief and you first started as a fire chief 10 years ago, that was great. What are you doing now? Look at you now, look at you back then. Are you still into the job? Are you still, talking shop? Are you still doing that stuff? Are you running from the guys or running to the guys? You know, you know, you know, and at the risk that you're not always going to hear happy stuff when the chief, so years ago I'm with Tom Brennan and Alan Brunacini in Sacramento, and I just left Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which I'd still be there if my first wife, my practice wife, did move to Texas, my son. But anyway, um, and Bruno goes, so how they treating you in Texas? He goes, damn, you left Coeur d'Alene. They wanted to change the name, the town after you. I want to name the town after you. And I said, it'd be a good place if it wasn't for the people. And Bruno goes, hey, dumbass, if it wasn't for the people, you wouldn't have a job. And one of the things I talk about those that great leaders make difficult decisions is we all high five, arm and fist bump at a job, right? Pin in, and you see the pictures. We're all standing with our tools. As bosses, as leaders, why do we not get excited when we put out people fires? You see some chief, you go to Chiefs conference, and by the time you leave the Chiefs conference, you want to go fall in a piercing nozzle because you're so, it's like, they're like, oh my God, I got a personnel issue. I'm like, I thought that's your job. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to fix stuff. That's what you're supposed to do as a leader. And we say this in our class. If you don't want to do that, stay in the back with the boys and girls, break glass, punch holes in roofs, and stretch hose. Don't be a boss, but I think sometimes we lose our focus on what it means to be a company officer, a battalion chief, or chief of department.
The problem is, right, it's in the volunteer, it's election night, January 1st, you're in the spot. In the career job, you test, you get appointed, and the next day you're in that seat. And they don't give you anything other than a new shield for your helmet, right? And I think, go ahead, Chief.
Well, no, I was just going to say, you just talk. That's the lead in for our company officer academy, Jeremy.
Right.
I say this. I said, so as a new firefighter, I go, how many people here lieutenant hire? Raise your hand. They raise your hand. I said, so when you got promoted, first time they ever let you ride a seat as a company officer, what 3 things do you remember about the class they sent you to how to be a company officer? And they all laughed. They go, no. I go, so let me get this straight. We front load you as a firefighter. We send you to the fire academy or put you to our firefighter 1, 2, maybe EMT, maybe paramedic, hazmat awareness, first responder. We get you on shift or on your volley night. You're doing your drills. A couple years later, there's a bump in the road. You're driving. And then we promote you and we send you nowhere. And then we promote the battalion. And someday you make chief. And then I come in as a consultant and go, well, they got a vote of no confidence on you already. Didn't pass negotiations wise. Why? I love law enforcement. I was a cop early in my life. They train chiefs of police on how to be chiefs of police.
Yes.
We don't do as good a job as we should be preparing people. We're the only profession that promotes people, and in most places do nothing. You said it, and I jumped on it. Sorry, because we put you in positions, but we don't give you the tools. It's like giving you a socket set with 1 socket.
At least years ago, the tools were typically experience. The problem is that we have people promoting quicker and quicker. We've had a mass exodus of 20, 25-year people through attrition, buyouts, whatever you want. In these systems that have been in place, we've lost so much experience in the last 20 years in the fire service, and now we're promoting up. And now, too, being a product of the Texas Fire Service for a point in your life, the expansion of those ESDs and the growth down there where you have firehouses opening up literally every 3 months, the district's opening up a new firehouse and they're just plugging people in. And now you're like, well, we need a lieutenant there. Hey, Joe, congratulations. 2.5 years on the job. You're a lieutenant today. Thanks. It's the system is I don't want to say broken because I think that has a very negative connotation, but the system is changing and becoming more fluid and dynamic on a pace that I think is the pace is quicker than we can catch up.
Right.
And so it's how do we then address at this fast pace that we're moving, the change and shift. And that goes back to my leading question to you 50 minutes ago in this podcast is, Pride and Ownership written in 2006, 18 years later, we are it's a timeless book. And the content in there is timeless. But I would love to see you come out to shoot with some follow up on some of it to today's, because I think the job is shifting faster than it ever has before.
Well,
and people are starving. They're starving for guidance.
And I'll give you, we talked about it early on before we went live, but I'll give you the title of the John and I did our leadership book together, 5-Alarm Leadership for the Firehouse to Fireground as well. We decided, like I said, I wasn't going to do a part 2 or second edition because Pride and Ownership is written timeless. But all the things I cover in Pride and Ownership and things like it are coming out in another book that's actually a program. It's actually a program I do right now. It's a podcast I did. I own the title of it, that kind of thing. And the book is called The North American Fire Service, and the subhead is Still Making House Calls.
I love it.
Still making house calls. And it's why out of all the professions out there, the TV repairman's gone. I'm just saying, the doctors come to your house and all that different stuff. The North, like I said, it'll be probably about 6 months it'll be out. But, that the North American Fire Service is still making house calls. Why are we still there? We still show up. People call 911. It's been over 50 years since they created that emergency number. We still show up, and it doesn't matter what you call us for. It does. Sometimes we go to people's houses, and it's the most ridiculous thing in the world, but it's the biggest thing going on in their life. They call us because they love firefighters. They call us because they can count on us. They call us because we may get back on a rig and go, oh my God, I can't believe they call us for that. But they call us because we treat people like family. We treat little kids and grandparents and those like they're our grandparents and our children, our business. And there's very few people that do that anymore. The ownership of it, that this is my community, this is my town, that's my engine, those kinds of things. There is still a reason why we do it. And there is still a reason, now there are some places where, you said it, down in Texas, they're giving you $10,000 and $15,000 signing bonuses. If you get hired as a firefighter, here's a $15,000 check. I used to get in the car and go take tests with a whole bunch of buddies of mine all day long, and it was like winning the lottery if you got hired. So I don't think there's an easy answer to it, but I also don't think it's as difficult as some people make it out to be. If we get back to instilling, you said it, our core values, simple ones, like pride, honor, and integrity. I could fit everybody else's word vomit through 3 words. They're on my challenge coins. Integrity has to be the very foundation. There's not a higher core value in the world. Nothing else matters if you have no integrity. Integrity is everything. When you climb out of that hole, out of that funnel off of integrity, you're climbing past words like duty, honor, pride, sacrifice, all those things, commitment. But you have to have that in your life. If we have something people can wrap their arms around, if we remind people what we represent, that little kids love you and seniors love you and everybody in between. Are there people that abuse the system? Yes, I know that. That's everywhere. All right. But if we can get back to realizing what it is we represent and what we stand for, there's a reason why we're on all the Christmas ornaments. And I know it's how God, he's bragging about the fire service. Well, I'm not going to apologize. I am.
You should brag about it.
Yeah, it's
brag about it.
Exactly. Every firehouse stands in a neighborhood of what is special
and
what is righteous in that community.
That's right.
So you're wearing the shirt. I'm wearing my uniform. Name me another profession.
That's
when
right.
they get off work, they wear T-shirts. The guy from Subway doesn't have a Subway sticker in the back of his pickup truck that goes, Subway sandwiches, we do 12 inches. And the guy from sandwiches. The guy from the Home Depot, they have a Home Depot tattoo with a lightning bolt. It's store 54. You see firefighter license plates, you see stickers, you see T-shirts, you see hats, because you know what? As much as some of us don't want to admit it, deep down inside, they really do love it, man. They love what it represents. They love that Maltese cross. They may not know where it came from, but they love that Maltese cross. Aside from some of the military vets that are out there that put the stickers on their cars, the license plates, God bless them, I love my vets. We have to allow people to discover. You said this. Tell the fire chiefs, hey, look, guys and gals, I know you got a lot going on. It's not easy being a fire chief, I can tell you that. All right. But motivate your people, lead your people, be willing to accept criticism, be willing to accept complaints, be their bitches or complaints. Do everything you can. There's an older book out there, and I know the title is older, so please don't take offense, folks, but the mission, it's a military book, The Mission, the Men and Me. The mission are those people out there, the men and women your team, and then you. It's you as a firefighter, as a chief, and everybody in between. It's the mission first, which is those people. It's your team, your brothers and sisters, and then it's you.
It is
So,
amazing how much pushback I get when I talk like that. And that to me is what threw up a lot of red flags, especially in the last month. I put up a post, I don't know, a couple weeks ago from a podcast I did, and we were talking about the competition of fire departments these days, where people now, there's certain areas, not so much where I am in the Northeast, but other parts of the country, where fire departments are promoting themselves to get lateral transfers instead of putting in new recruits. And what they're doing is basically creating a system where fire departments are now competing with one another. And the firefighter now is getting the most value out of that because they can go get what they want. People are competing for firefighters now. So, hey, we're going to give you a signing bonus. We're going to give you 100% medical. We're going to give you this. We're going to pay you more. You got better working conditions here. Whatever it is.
Jeremy,
But,
Sacramento, let me refer, Sacramento
yeah,
did a while back. You looked at their bulletin. We're finally getting smart how we're recruiting. The very first bullet point, aggressive fire department.
love it.
Second one, 4096. Third one, special rescue, use our teams, blah, blah, blah. You know,
Absolutely.
you got to throw the hook out there and go, hey, you want to be cool? You want to do it? Here's your chance, man. Here's your chance.
So where I want to go, yes, I agree with you. In departments that promote themselves, departments that put those posters out there and they're like, help wanted, this is what you get here. 300 working fires a year. This. Those are departments that are dialed in, understand the type of firefighters they want, and those are cultural firefighters that are looking for more than just a paycheck. They're looking for the experience, a job that promotes firefighting, firemanship, and most guys want to go there. However, we do have the people that just want a paycheck. And the problem is when I put that post up, I ended the post with saying that the grass isn't always greener. And guys that don't do their homework,
Right.
that leave only to come back, I said, I wouldn't want those guys back. I said, I want some loyalty and integrity in my job. And if you guys are willing to jump ship before you do your homework, to know that that shift is better for you than my house, right? Don't come crawling back then. If it doesn't work out. And Chief, the thing, though, is people went bananas over that. And I was like, I don't understand why. Because do your homework. And if it is better for you, I support you 1,000%. If it's better for your commute, family time, money, insurance, whatever it is, if it's better for you, great. But if you get there and it's not what you envisioned it to be, you left me. I'm scorned. I'm like a scorned lover, Chief. I don't know if I want you back.
Well, and it's like I said, if you don't do your homework, you don't do your research, you're going to end up with the Christmas present with the ugly sweater inside.
I agree with
Because
you 100%.
there's a lot of beautiful firehouses on the outside. You get inside and they're pretty ugly.
They're ugly.
And you know, I'm a big Motown fan. I love Detroit. I love Motown. I got good buddies there. When you watch the special, The Making of Hitsville, where Barry Gordy talks through how he created Motown and coming off the assembly line from Ford and taking the assembly line process to how he built Motown and, you know, seeking the talent. But one of the tenets he had, which I love, I use this in some of my classes, because I told you I'm very competitive in the way of, if I can't be the best, I don't want to be. You know, I want to be the best firefighter. I want to be the best what I can.
Sure.
You know, the best fire chief if I can. But he's got a phrase: competition builds champions.
100%.
But now when he follows it up with Jeremy, he goes, but you can't take out the love. He says when you remove the love, ego, hate, the green-eyed monster, you know, all that stuff creeps in. You got to have the love. So that's when I go, God, that's the fire service. Competition breeds champions.
I say it all the time.
But you got to have the love, man. You got to still love what it is we do, what we represent. And some people think that's corny, and I don't think it's corny to love being a firefighter. There are people out there that get up in the morning, they watch their watch and they clock and they're miserable, they're not happy. We have guys the night before or on their way to drill night, like giddy in their car. People's spouses at home are jealous because he'd rather be at the firehouse than with me. We have the greatest toys. We get to do the coolest things. We get to make a lot of noise. We get to, and let's be serious. We get to put our hands on people and save their lives. You can call me dramatic all you want. Fact of life. We get to put our hands on people and change their lives and save them. We save their belongings. We save their livelihood. We save their loved ones. I don't care if you only do it one time in 30 years. You can check it off and go. I can go now. I've done my side of it. When we lose sight of that, when we lose sight of the mission, you said it early on, the mission of the fire service, what it is we represent, it becomes a paycheck or just a pager. It becomes just a T-shirt. There's guys out there. I've looked at their company logos and said, so who came up with that? I don't know. It's been here for 20 years. I'm like, how do you not know your logo? How do you not know your patch? There's people that have badges with the scramble in the middle of the badges. And one of the things that are the ones I love, Paul Conway just asked this, and I do a whole my history. I have a history class called Our History. This should be day one of the fire academy. But that scramble in the middle. All right, there's a trumpet, there's a helmet, there's an axe, there's a hook. There weren't pike pole ladder trucks the old day. They were hook ladders. But anyway, there's a lot of them there's an extra, it points towards your chin off the badge. It's a little stick with a ball with a little U on it. That's a parade torch. And I go, how do you not know what's in the middle? You put your hand up, you took an oath. Somebody, this is our mentors, these are our senior guys, didn't explain to you, hey, Rick, hey, Jeremy, let me explain what's in the middle of your badge. And what a parade torch actually, I mean, the history of the fire service, why we're even here. There's guys with 40-something years that have no idea why we exist. And to say to save lives and property doesn't cut it with me. We represent so much more, and it's, yes, it's not easy, but it's not as difficult as people make it out to be, to fall in love or fall back in love with the job, with the right people, with the right friends, with the right brothers and sisters, and yes, with the right bosses, the right chiefs.
Well, I'll say this, Chief. Speaking with you today and just this time, it goes very quick. And I mean, I could talk with you all day, but I know you have a tight schedule today as well. I just want to say this, this has been a blast, and I sense and feel that from you, because how many times did you talk about your friend John, right? Like, and that's what this is all about. It's like you found someone that challenges you, somebody that listens to you, somebody that is your partner when it comes to the fire service, and we all need that. And you bubble over with excitement, 45 years plus in the fire service, and you're still smiling and bubbling over and still looking for ways to leave your mark and to push it forward. And a new book coming out, and this, and a podcast, and a class, and all these things you do brings tremendous value. And I just want to say, as somebody that read your content and have gotten to know you from the outside looking in, and now today I get to truly dive in a little bit with you. I met you at FDIC, I think this year for the first time. I came over and just wanted to say hello and shake your hand. But you're a mentor for me. I think that, guys like you that have given so much back to the fire service, this is a full circle moment for me. And it's just been a lot of fun getting to know you. And you didn't disappoint, brother. Like, and I mean that so endearingly. Like, you didn't disappoint, meaning that everything that I've read and known about you has come to life today. And so I just want to say thank you. This has been a fantastic conversation.
I appreciate it, and I was excited about it. I was thinking about it. Look, we all do. You too, a ton of shows. I know. I've got 3 different shows that I personally do with my buddy John and some friends. But last night I'm up sitting there before going to bed thinking about today and being on the show with you, and then before getting on the show, and I'm like, there's that energy leading up to it. I'm going to be with my buddy Jeremy, and we're going to be on the show. We're going to be talking to love for the job and all this stuff. And I will say this to your listeners, to your fan base. I know that sounds weird, but to your followers, that's the better way to say it.
Yeah.
To your followers, but to yourself, to any of them, and especially you, Jeremy. Next time you're in Colorado, Estes Park. All right, Estes Valley Fire. Estes Park is an hour 20 minutes north of Denver, 45 minutes west of Loveland. We have 4.5 million visitors. Please come by the firehouse. We get visiting firefighters all the time. I'd love to have you out here. This is an incredible place. I would love to show off my people. I know I'm supposed to, but I don't have to here. They make it so easy to brag about them. If you want to see what it's like to love the job, if you want to see what it's like to have good leadership, come meet my chiefs. If you want to see what it's like to have good captains, lieutenants, come meet them. If you want to see, now I don't call them firefighters here. I call my firefighters, I call them my crazy nutjob maniacs. I've said that for some crazy nutjob. Come on by. Yep. But I'd love to have you next time. Please come by here. It was an honor to be with you, brother. It truly was. Thank
It
you
was
for
a
having.
great conversation. I think a lot of good takeaways from this, and we both still have a lot of work ahead of us, brother.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. You know what? I love how much you push the passion of the fire service. I'll go back to one thing. To your followers, you see it like I see it. When you watch this particular podcast and you see him at a firehouse or at a show, like I said, the stuff I'm like, I rewind because I want to see the pump panel you just showed me, or the way I love when you pull the trays out and you show how they have their tools mounted. I'm like, God, why did I think of that? You know, there's so many great things on this podcast I'll tell you, that are just so far above and beyond the
Thank
verbal
you.
content. There's so
Thank
many
you.
great things. So I'm honored to have been a guest, buddy. Thank
Well,
you so much.
it was a real pleasure to have you, and this is just the beginning of a great friendship, and you know, an open invitation. Anybody that's ever on the show with me has an open invite to come back. When that new book comes out, I'd love to have you back on. I'd love to go through that book with you a little bit and break it down. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Just thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule today, Chief. I appreciate you.
Truly my honor. We'll do
Cool.
a show here. We come here, we'll do a show here. We'll talk about all the stuff that's went
You
on
can
here.
just tour me
Tragedy
around.
wise.
I'm looking at the photos behind you. I saw your office before when we were talking. I mean, there's so much there, and I'm going to take you up on that invitation. So we will.
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
get
telling
that
you,
done.
all you have to do, Google Estes Park, Colorado. You'll see what I'm talking about. So, Jeremy, thank you,
love it.
brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Stay right here. I'm going to sign off the podcast, and I'll come right back to you, Chief.
All
Okay.
right, buddy.
Great. Everyone, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. What an incredible episode with a mentor of mine. You know, not everybody grows up in a firehouse that has a mentor that's riding next to them, or in the back seat, or in the front seat. And if you don't, look around you, because there can be people that can become mentors. And until today, I've never really gotten to know Chief Lasky until today, but I can tell you I read his articles, read his book, and I've listened to some of his podcasts, and it's somebody that's pushing the job forward, and that to me is a mentor. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Like I say at the end of every episode, take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when we're talking about the job, we're making the job better. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.